Senator Murray just exposed what happens when the Justice Department becomes a personal vendetta machine. What you're about to witness is Pam Bondi defending the indefensible mass firings of career prosecutors, illegal grant cancellations, and the systematic dismantling of programs that protect women and children. This isn't law enforcement, it's lawlessness with a badge.
We have seen respected career officials who've been fired for doing their job. Thousands more are being pushed out with the year buyouts and the threat of mass firings, and entire divisions are being eliminated, and grants have been canceled illegally. So I have questions about how and why those decisions are being made, and importantly, whether you're adequately resourcing DOJ to do its job. But before I turn to my questions, I do want to raise my alarm about the troubling pattern of trampling basic rights. Detainees, including U.S. citizens, being shipped overseas without any due process. Elected officials are detained for conducting oversight, and a U.S. senator gets tackled to the ground for asking questions at a press conference. This is not the country I know or the values I believe in, and I hope that colleagues on both sides of the aisle will agree with that. Now, to the questions. Yesterday, and I know that Senator Van Hollen raised this issue, a former DOJ attorney filed a protected whistleblower complaint accusing Deputy AG Emil Bove and senior DOJ leadership of defying court orders, including through, quote, lack of candor, deliberate delay, and disinformation, unquote. The complaint also accuses this administration of firing the whistleblower for, quote, telling the truth to the court. These allegations are deeply concerning. Now, I know you said that you can't discuss the case, but can you confirm that you agree that this administration should follow court orders?
We will follow court orders, Senator. The entire administration will follow court orders. The problem arises in the district courts. All these district courts throughout the country are tying our hands, but here's how we will follow them when we get to the United Supreme Court.
I need to ask
we're
you
winning.
A number of questions.
And so, yes,
I know
we're following the orders of the court.
Let me ask my questions. Can you confirm you will not allow any conduct like what is alleged to continue at the DOJ?
I'm not going to talk about anything that's alleged. What I will talk about with you, hold on, you asked me a question and I get to answer it. What you asked me, alleged conduct that's part of a pending whistleblower lawsuit that was filed on the eve prior to Emil Bove's hearing today.
I'm not asking about that
suspicious.
Case
hold on, let me keep going. I would run through a wall for Emil Bove and Todd Blanche.
Like to continue with my questions. I have very limited time. Thank you. I just want you to confirm for this you will not allow conduct like that at the DOJ. Yes or no?
I will always support and defend Emil Bove, and I will defend Todd Blanche. They are two of the finest people I know and two of the ethical people I know.
I was asking about the conduct. Let me keep going here. Now, in April, DOJ abruptly terminated over 300 public safety grants that had already gone through a very rigorous and fair and apolitical application process with no explanation. This is funding to investigate and prosecute drug trafficking, to support foster care kids who experienced abuse or neglect, to expand access to forensic exams to prosecute violent crimes like sexual assault. These really senseless cancellations have already forced public safety organizations to cut employees and services. So I want to ask you, when you cut off the community-based violence intervention and prevention initiative funding, were you aware it is used to prevent and reduce violent crime?
Yeah, Senator, you weren't here for that, so I'm going to have to repeat myself. We have cut grants. I think we've cut 6%. But if we have cut a grant that you feel should not be cut, please reach out to me. I will personally look at it. We've turned multiple grants back on. Okay. We have an appeal process. But if you want to come to me directly, I would be happy to sit down with you and look at that and help you.
I'm happy. I appreciate
Again, we're doing everything we can.
Okay, but let me just ask you, when you cut off the expanding access to sexual assault forensic examination grant, were you aware that that grant helps our authorities prosecute rape and sexual assault?
I have no idea about that specific grant you're talking about. That's why I said if you want to come sit down with me, I would never cut a grant
I appreciate that.
intentionally
It's
that
very
has
hard
anything
for those
to do.
recipients on the other end across the country.
Can you
to
give
get
me
a
the
phone
details of
interview.
that grant?
I can absolutely do that, and my staff will get that to you, but those are two critical ones that I just wanted to ask you about today.
Again, we've turned many grants back on and will continue to. If you want to call me and we can discuss them with you.
Okay, in your budget request, you propose consolidating the Office on Violence Against Women into the Office of Justice Programs. In 2002, Congress actually codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office to implement the Violence Against Women Act. We did that to make sure that violent crimes against women receive the necessary attention, expertise, and resources, and to give the office a strong, independent voice within the Justice Department and federal government. Now, your department wants to fade that into the OJP, which violates the intent of the law that we passed. It makes grant programs less effective, and it places a lot more barriers for victims and services they need. And I see that you're cutting the office's resources by about a third. So will you commit to us, the Appropriations Committee, to follow the law and maintain OVW as a separate grant entity?
I will follow the law, but I will not keep that as a separate grant entity. You and I can disagree all day long on what the law is.
Well,
that's being consolidated into the Office of Justice Programs.
so
I'm not going to cut, let me answer, I'm not going to cut anything that's going to hurt violence against
Not
women.
my question.
It will
I'm
eliminate
asking, just for your information, Attorney General, in 2002, we codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office. So that you need to go back and take a look at that. I know my time is out, but I thank you very much for the time. We have
What
seen
Senator
respected
Murray
career
accomplished in that
officials who've been
hearing room
fired
wasn't
for doing their
just
job.
political theater.
Thousands more are being
It was a
pushed
surgical
out with
dissection
your
of how
buyouts and the
democratic
threat of mass
institutions
firings, and
collapse
entire
from within,
divisions are being
piece
eliminated,
by piece,
and
until what
grants have
remains
been
is the shell of
canceled
justice
illegally.
with none of
so
its
I have
substance.
questions about how
Murray's
and why
approach
those
was
decisions
methodical,
are being made,
almost
and
clinical.
importantly, whether you're
She didn't
adequately
grandstand
resourcing
or deliver
DOJ
sound
to do its
bites.
job.
Instead,
But
she
before I turn to my
systematically
questions, I
documented
do want to raise
institutional
my
destruction
alarm
in
about
real
the troubling
time,
pattern of
forcing
trampling
Bondi
basic
to
rights.
defend actions that
Detainees,
sound
including
reasonable
US
in
citizens,
isolation,
being
but
shipped
reveal a
overseas without
coordinated
any due
assault
process.
when viewed together.
Elected officials
This wasn't
are
accidental
detained for
chaos, it
conducting
was
oversight,
deliberate demolition.
and a U.S.
Murray's
senator gets
questioning
tackled to the
exposed
ground
three critical
for asking
fractures in the
questions at a
Justice
press
Department's
conference.
foundation.
This is not the
First,
country I know
the
or the
systematic
values I
purging
believe
of
in,
career
and I hope
prosecutors
that
who
colleagues
built
on both
cases
sides
based
of
on
the aisle will
evidence
agree
rather
with
than
that.
political loyalty.
Now, to the questions
These weren't
yesterday,
performance-based
and I know
terminations
that
or budget reductions.
Senator Van Hollen
They were
raised
targeted
this issue.
removals
A
of
former DOJ
professionals whose
attorney
only
filed a
offense was maintaining
protected
independence
whistleblower
from political
complaint
pressure. When
accusing
Murray pressed
Deputy
Bondi
AG
about
Emil
mass
Bove
firings,
and
Bondi's
senior DOJ
deflection
leadership
revealed the
of
administration's
defying
core
court orders,
strategy.
including through, quote,
Replace
lack of
independent
candor,
professionals
deliberate
with
delay,
partisan
and
operatives who will
disinformation,
follow
unquote.
orders
The
without
complaint
questioning
also
their
accuses this
constitutional duties
administration
or
of
legal
firing the
precedent.
whistleblower
Second,
for, quote,
the
telling the
weaponization
truth
of grant
to the
funding
court.
as a political
These
tool.
allegations
Murray
are
highlighted
deeply
over
concerning.
300
Now, I know you
terminated
said that
public
you can't
safety
discuss the
grants,
case,
including
but can
programs
you
to prosecute
confirm
sexual
that you
assault and
agree that
support
this
foster children.
administration
These
should
weren't
follow
budget cuts
court
based on
orders?
fiscal responsibility. They were
We will
targeted
follow
eliminations
court
of
orders,
programs that
Senator.
serve vulnerable
The entire
populations who lack
administration
political
will
power to
follow
fight
court
back.
orders.
The
The
timing
problem
was
arises in the
particularly
district
revealing.
courts. All these district
Grants
courts
terminated
throughout
after
the
rigorous
country
political review
are
processes
tying
were
our
already
hands.
approved.
And here's how we
This
will follow
suggests
them when we
decisions
get
made
to the
not by
United
career
Supreme Court.
I need
officials
to ask
We're
you a
winning.
number of
merit,
questions.
And so,
I
yes,
but
know
by
we're
you
political
following the orders
appointees
Let me ask my
evaluating
questions.
ideology.
Can you
When Bondi
confirm you
claimed
will not
ignorance
allow
about
any
grants
conduct
funding
like
rape
what is
prosecution,
alleged
she
to
exposed
continue at
either
the DOJ?
stunning incompetence or
I'm not going
calculated
to talk about
indifference,
anything that's alleged.
both
What I will talk
disqualifying
about
for
with
someone
you,
overseeing
hold on, you
federal
asked me a
law
question and I
enforcement.
get to answer it.
Third,
What you
the
asked me,
deliberate
alleged
dismantling
conduct
of
that's part of a
institutional
pending
safeguards.
whistleblower
Murray's
lawsuit
questions
that was
about the
filed
Office
on
on
the
Violence
eve
Against
prior
Women
to
revealed
Emil
the
Bove's
administration's
hearing
strategy
today.
of
I'm
consolidating
not asking about
specialized
that
offices
suspicious.
into
Hold on,
generic
let me keep going.
bureaucratic
I would
units.
run through a wall
Where
for Emil Bove
expertise
and Todd
disappears
Blank.
and
You should use my
accountability
questions.
becomes
I have very
impossible to
limited time.
trace. This
Thank
isn't
you.
efficiency, it's
I just want
erasure
you
of
to
institutional
confirm,
memory and
for this, you
specialized
will not
knowledge
allow
that took decades
conduct
to build.
like that at
Bondi's
the
defiance
DOJ.
of
Yes or
congressional
no?
intent was
I will
particularly
always support
striking.
and defend
When
Emil
Murray
Bovee,
cited the
and I will
2002
defend
law
Todd Blanche. They are
establishing
two of the
OVO as
finest people I
independent,
know and two
I
of the
was
best
Bondi
asking about the
essentially
conduct.
declared
Let me
legislative
keep going
authority
here.
irrelevant
Now,
to
in
executive
April,
decision.
DOJ
This
abruptly
represents a
terminated
fundamental
over
breach of
300 public
constitutional
safety grants
separation
that
of
had already gone
powers,
through a very
where
rigorous
one
and
branch
fair
simply
and
ignores the
apolitical
clear mandates of
application
another.
process
Bondi's
with no
responses followed a
explanation.
predictable
This
pattern.
is funding to investigate and prosecute
minimize,
drug
then
trafficking,
promise
to
personal
support
meetings
foster
to
care
handle
kids
problems
who experienced
privately.
abuse or
This
neglect,
approach
to
transforms
expand
systemic
access to
constitutional
forensic
violations
exams
into
to
personal
prosecute violent
favors,
crimes like
making
sexual
justice
assault.
dependent on
These
political
really
relationships
senseless
rather than
cancellations
legal
have already
principles.
forced public
When
safety
Bondi said she would
organizations
run through a
to
wall
cut
for
employees
Deputy
and
AG
services. So
Booth despite
I
credible
want to ask
whistleblower
you,
allegations,
when you cut off the
she prioritized
community-based
personal
violence
loyalty over
intervention and
institutional
prevention
integrity.
initiative funding,
The broader
were you
implications
aware
extend
it is
beyond
used to
any
prevent
single
and
hearing.
reduce violent
When career
crime?
prosecutors fear
Yeah,
retaliation for
Senator,
following
you weren't here for
evidence,
that, so I'm going to have to
investigations
repeat
stop
myself.
before they begin.
We have
When
cut
specialized
grants. I think
offices
we've cut
lose
6%.
independence,
But if we
expertise
have cut a
fragments, and
grant
victims
that
lose
you feel
advocates.
should
When
not
grant
be
funding
cut,
becomes
please reach
conditional
out
on
to me.
political
I will
alignment,
personally
local
look
communities
at it.
must
We've
choose
turned
between
multiple
serving
grants
their
back
residents
on.
and
We
maintaining
have an
federal
appeal
support.
process. But
Murray's
if you want to come to me
persistence in
directly,
demanding
I would
yes
be
or
happy
no
to sit
answers
down
to
with you
simple questions
and look
without
at that
following
and
court
help you.
orders
I'm happy-
illuminated
I-
Bondi's
Again, we're
core
doing everything
problem.
we can.
Okay,
She
but let
cannot
me just
commit
ask you,
to
when you
basic
cut off
legal
the expanding
principles without
access to
potentially
sexual assault
contradicting her
forensic
political
examination grant,
superiors.
were
That
you
hesitation
aware
reveals
that
an
that grant
attorney
helps our
general who sees
authorities
her role as
prosecute rape
protecting
and
the
sexual
administration
assault?
rather than enforcing the law.
I have no
This
idea
hearing
about that
demonstrated
specific
why
grant you're talking
institutional
about. That's why I
independence
said
matters
if you want to
beyond
come sit
abstract
down with me, I would
constitutional
never
theory.
cut
Every
a grant
terminated prosecutor,
intentionally
every
that has
canceled grant,
anything to do
every
with the
eliminated
on the other
office
end across
represents
the
real
country.
people
Can you give
who
me the
will not
details of
receive
that grant?
justice.
I can absolutely
Protection
do
or
that,
services
and
they
my staff will
desperately
get that
need.
to you. But those
Democracy
are two critical ones
dies
that I just
not
wanted to ask
in
you about
dramatic
today.
moments,
Again, we've turned
but in
many
quiet
grants back
erosions
on,
of professional
and we'll
standards,
continue to.
institutional
If
memory, and public
you want to
trust.
call me and we
The
can
question
discuss
now
them
is
with
whether
you.
Congress will
Okay,
treat
in
these
your budget
revelations as
request, you
urgent
proposed
warnings requiring
consolidating
immediate
the Office on
oversight and
Violence Against
legislative
Women
action,
into the Office of
or
Justice
as political
Programs.
noise to be
In
managed until the next
2002,
news
Congress
cycle.
actually
Murray
codified
showed
the
how to
office
ask
as
the
a
right
permanent,
questions. The
separate,
test is
and
whether
independent
anyone will
office
demand the
to
right
implement the
answers.